Oh man, how do I get good at Valorant? I just want to be good. Dr. Valorant! Dr. Valorant, please help me get good at Valorant!
Okay, my son. Watch this FIGHTERFILMS video.
Yes, Sensei! Hey everybody, it's FIGHTERFILMS here today with another Valorant video, but in this video, today what we're going to do is we're going to show a showcase of all of the weapons in Valorant. We're going to show you their pros and their cons, when they should be used, when they shouldn't, essentially. Just so you guys get more familiar with the weapons in Valorant. Same as my last video, this is more for like newer players or players in lower ranks. And yeah. The first weapon we're going to start with is the Classic. The weapon you spawn in with, the free weapon, the weapon that not everyone's a big fan of. But essentially, yeah, what we're going to do throughout all these weapons is we're going to go through each and every single one of them, tell you some basic things about them, and pretty much when they should be used. Again, starting with the Classic. So, essentially with the Classic, we have our basic fire, right? Last video, we talked about how not every gun has an ADS, but some guns do. The Classic is one of those weapons that does not have an ADS. Instead of having an ADS, it has an alternate fire. If you're right-clicking with the Classic, it's a sort of shotgun mode. It shoots 3 bullets in kind of a random pattern, but in a bigger radius, as if it was a shotgun. That being said, as you can imagine, when turning a corner, coming around a corner, and you know they're going to be close, typically that's when you would go in with that shotgun fire, like so. Like if I knew they were right here, come around, boom, shotgun fire. In close range fights, you definitely want to use the alternate fire other than the single fire. The Classic doesn't have a lot of range. From 0 to 30 meters, the headshot only does 78. So within the typically where you'll have those fights with the Classic, you only do 78 to the head, so it will have to be like a 2-tap, which is unfortunate. But again, it is the Classic and it is free. Not the best weapon in the game, as you can imagine. It is free. It's what you start with. But the big hitter with this one is that we have your normal fire, and then you have your alternate fire. Going into our next one, we have the Shorty. The Shorty is the cheap shotgun, but although it is cheaper than the other shotguns, it is just as deadly, but it has a massive drawback, and it only has 2 bullets before you have to reload. Here in the range, I have unlimited ammo, but essentially you would have those 2 shots. That being said, you have to be very close in order to kill someone with it. If we go over here and test it on our bots, if we shoot him from this range, we didn't even kill him, right? Even though this is probably like a shotgun distance, this shotgun you have to be significantly closer to do damage. There we go. So, yeah. So that's the biggest drawback on this one, is that you only have those 2 bullets. Not the best shotgun, but it's super good for a cheap pick within the round. Obviously, only use this weapon in short range. If you guys haven't seen my video previous to this, a lot of stuff may not make sense, so make sure to go check out that video if you want the full scope of how to get into Valorant, essentially. Next, we have our Frenzy. Our Frenzy is our cheap, fast shooting gun, right? Our cheap automatic weapon. It's a little Uzi, if you will, and it has 13 bullets, and you can fire in quick succession. Has a very high fire rate, but does not do as much damage as something like the Shorty and or the Sheriff. But in close range fights, although it has a kind of sporadic recoil pattern in close range fights where recoil is not the biggest issue, you may be able to get some quick kills because it does have a very quick fire rate. So you can die pretty fast. Maybe if I get a headshot in there as well, even better. But yeah, not a long range weapon. There's not many long range weapons when it comes to pretty much our secondaries, our starting weapons. That being said, if you're playing on a close quarters map and you're looking for that secondary, and you feel confident with using it, the Frenzy and the Shorty are a great choice. Going into our next 2, which I feel like are the 2 most used, is our Ghost and our Sheriff. This is our Ghost right here. It's a silenced version. The silencer does actually have a benefit, unlike some people may imagine. The tracers are not visible to enemies, and a firing sound cannot be heard at distances 40 meters plus, except in the direction of fire. That being said, if they're outside of that 30-meter range. So as long as you're having a fight within that 30-meter range and the enemies are elsewhere, they will not be able to hear that sound, which is awesome. But it's not really why the reason why it's used is one, it has a similar fire rate to the classic at the top left, as you can see. Super reliable if you're not looking to use the classic and you want something with a little bit more range. As you see on the classic here, from 0 to 30, we get that about 78 for a headshot. For the Ghost, we get 105. Still a 2-hit kill if they have shield, but if they do not have shield, you will be able to one-shot them. But if they have shield, you can hit them in the head or the body, or a couple of body shots will do the job. And you can shoot this quite fast. The only thing you'll have to watch out for is how the recoil will kind of go all over the place once you spam. But is a super good pick on most maps. Typically, this is a weapon that the only really secondary that you're using in that kind of medium to longer ranges, but can also be very deadly up close if your aim will suffice. That being said, going into my favorite, and a skin, I just bought a skin for it recently, the Sheriff. Right now, this is the Ion Sheriff. It's so gorgeous. But the Sheriff is our long-range weapon. Also has a high drawback, or super large drawback, just like the Shorty does. That being said, it is killer. As you can see, to the head, it does 159 damage to the head. So even if they have heavy shield, they will get one shot to the head. But there's only 6 bullets, and the fire rate is not the best. It doesn't have a high fire rate like some of our other weapons. If we look at the Sheriff here, it has a 4 rounds per second compared to our 6.7 on the Classic and the Ghost. That being said, you have to make those shots count as well as try to have the best aim possible, because again, there's 159 to the head. So if you are able to hit that headshot, no matter what round it is in the game, you will be able to get that one tap, which are always lovely. My most used weapon in the game is the Sheriff, but also the body shot does 55. If we're this is all in terms of that 0 to 30, but even in 30 to 50 meters, headshot does 145. So even if you're really far away, a headshot will still do a ton of damage. Oh, see, this is still 0 to 30. Yeah. See, he did not die, but he's one hit. Yes, love the Sheriff. Super good. I buy this pretty much every round, round in terms of like starting rounds. If you guys want to know when to buy certain weapons and how the money works in Valorant, I'll be more than happy to make a video on that. Again, I haven't been playing this game for too terribly long, but from what I've learned, I want to be able to teach you guys, especially because this is one of the games where it's really hard to get better. That being said, if I can aid you guys in getting even a little bit better, I would love to help. Finishing off our sidearms, that is the Sheriff, my favorite weapon in the game. Going into our SMGs, now we're starting to get into the big boys. We have our Stinger, relatively cheap in terms of things, but not very good in really any category. It has a very high fire rate. Imagine it's a Frenzy V2. This is how I like to imagine it. Has a very high fire rate, 6 higher fire rate than the Frenzy. We'll shoot it for a second. But as you can see, kind of goes all over the place. So in my opinion, this is still a weapon that you would be using in close quarters. You would not be using it long range because it is just, the recoil will be all over the place. Even if you have like pretty good recoil control, it's still all over the place. That being said, this one does have an ADS. This SMG does have an ADS, but with the ADS, it turns into a 4-round burst, which is probably better in terms of doing like fighting a long range. But again, if you have the Stinger, you're not really trying to fight long range because of the high recoil. So again, you're trying to use this in more close quarters, because if I try to use this far range, see, they would have had plenty of time to kill me, especially if I'm using the normal fire. I'm going all over the place, right? That being said, yeah, not very good in really any category other than the fact that it has a high fire rate. It used to be super good because you could like run and gun with it, and people would use it a lot. But as Riot has been nerfing run and gun constantly, this weapon has been getting lower and lower on our rank. That being said, we're going into the good SMG, if you will, the Spectre. Significantly more pricey, but for good reason. Again, it has a suppressor on it, so within a X amount of distance, they will not be able to hear those bullets. But with the Spectre, this is the closest you're getting to one of the ARs in the SMG category. That being said, it does have an ADS, just a normal ADS, nothing special here. Still shoots its normal fire rate. The Spectre is special because not only does it have a high fire rate, good reload speed, good damage overall, it's more a short to medium range in comparison to our Stinger here. So you can use this weapon in a lot more places than you could the Stinger. It's still not very good at long ranges. You can definitely make it work, but it will prove to be difficult. See, I only hit him with those first couple of shots, but then after that, it's kind of going all over the place. So, that being said, very, very good SMG if on all maps, in my opinion, unless it is a longer range map. You're probably going to want an AR or like a semi-auto weapon. But yeah, Spectre is really good from short to medium ranges and is not a weapon that I pick up a lot because I kind of buy the Sheriff always. That's just me. But a super good weapon nonetheless. And for its price point, it's worth it for sure. Now getting into the best weapons in the game, the shotguns. Our first shotgun up here is the Bucky. On the Bucky here, if you look on the right side of the screen, as we have been doing, we have our Bucky. So reload speed is all right. This is the worst of the two shotguns, as you can imagine, because of the price points. But it is still very good. This will be our first shotgun that doesn't have 2 bullets in it, though. It's not like the shorty we have. And the only drawback on this one is that you have to get used to its range, at least in my opinion, because this seems like a shotgun range to me. But here, yeah, I was about to say I killed those first 3 pretty easily, but hit him in the body from this range, it will end up taking those 2 shots, which can get you killed. It's got me killed recently. Still trying to learn the range on this thing, but if you learn the range on this thing, especially if you're up in their face, this can definitely be a good choice. The cockback does take a minute. It's not super slow by any means, but it is slower in comparison to our next shotgun, the Judge. Now, this weapon's crazy. The amount of clips that I've seen online with this weapon, as well as the amount of clips that I've hit with just this silly weapon, is so the Judge. If you ever played BO3 or any other first-person shooter, this is the fast-shooting shotgun. This is the street sweeper. This is the brekkie. This is the weapon that you use to get up in their spawn and just absolutely just wreck mayhem. So you are able to use this shotgun from a distance, but as you can see, it doesn't do a lot of damage. But it is probably doing more damage over time than like the Bucky would, imagine. Now, but again, the Judge is something you pretty much go in. If you're playing a duelist or someone who's pretty much trying to get in their face, whether it be Neon, Raze, Jet, someone of that caliber, if you're able to get in their face, this weapon is super good. Or if you play really, really sneaky, you're just lurking, and you have all the enemies come in front of you, you're like hiding in a corner, you will be able to get more kills with this than you would something like the Bucky. For example, if like I'm behind them, we go boom, 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 boom. You can kind of just go around and spam to your heart's content. It also does have more bullets than the Bucky, which is more bullets, faster shooting, and just overall kill potential is way higher on the Judge. If you're looking to pick a shotgun, I would recommend this one in most scenarios. Again, money is a big issue later on, over the course of the match. So, again, if you guys want a video on that, let me know, and I will get deep into it. That being said, this is the Judge. an amazing weapon. Really fun on raids or any duelists to kind of just get in their face, you know. Awesome. Getting to about that halfway point, we're at the rifles. This is the closest thing you will be getting into the Vandal, or to our assault rifles that we talked a little bit about briefly in the last episode. That being said, this is the Bulldog. Has that same like 4 burst as the Stinger does, so it can, and since it is a rifle, it can actually hold its own in long distances. But again, it is a rifle, so it's a little bit different than our Stinger, right? Now, this is a rifle, so it is good at that medium to long range fights. That's where it excels. The reason the Bulldog isn't chosen as much over the long run of the game is because we'll get to the Vandal earlier, but the Vandal is just better. But one of our main reasons being, if we're looking at the Vandal here, it does have a higher fire rate, but as we look at the recoil pattern, you will kind of realize the Bulldog doesn't have the kill potential like something like the Vandal. If we look at our Bulldog's damage, from 0 to 50 at a headshot, 115, body is 35 damage. We're about to get to the Vandal in a minute, but comparing that to the Vandal, the body does more, headshot does more, legs does more. So if you're wanting a lesser version of the Vandal, you still want some kill potential and fighting in those medium to long range fights but don't have the money, the Bulldog is a great choice. And also, if you are in a really long distance, you can make use of that 3-round burst and it will do you some good. Moving to our next one, we have the Guardian. First and only semi-auto rifle. The Guardian is good at one thing and one thing only, and that is long ranges. Again, that's not saying you can't use it in close range, but it does so well at long distance fights. 0 to 50 meters, headshot, 195 damage. I would like to think of the Sheriff as a miniature version of the Guardian. The Guardian's kind of the upgrade. Has a higher fire rate, can pretty much one-shot, again, you can one-shot to the head at every distance instead of just some distances, and it's just an overall great gun. Again, has that ADS, that normal ADS, but again, just the kill potential with this, if you can hit your headshots, are insane. But even this, 3 body shots. So, an amazing weapon if you're fighting on a long-range map. If you guys want like a map review on like what weapons will be good on what maps, I could do that as well. But something like the Guardian, I might use on like, I don't know, a long on this map. Typically, those longer corridors is where Guardian will be used. It can be good up close, but when you're up close, you tend to spam, and with spamming, I mean, you know where that can lead us. You could end up hitting the roof if you're not being careful. But Guardian, again, long range fights is where it excels. Very good weapon. I have a cute little skin on it as well. Now, getting into the big boys, the Phantom and the Vandal. The Phantom is kind of, the Phantom and the Vandal are the Phantom and the Vandal. The Phantom and the Vandal are very similar weapons, and I remember when I was starting, I would literally go in game and I would ask people like, "What's the difference between the Phantom and the Vandal? Like, how do I know which one's for me?" Let me tell you. At least in my experience, this is what I've found out. If we're going here looking at that Phantom, now 0 to 15 meters will one shot to the head, but 15 to 30 will not one shot to the head. And then 30 to 50, the drop off as it goes so on and so on. Again, it is a silenced weapon, so it's going to have the same features as other silenced weapons. But now, let's disregard the stats for a second. I think the Phantom excels just as much as the Vandal excels in most places. Typically, if it is a medium to long range fight, it excels more in medium range fights, in my opinion. But if it's in that medium to long range, the Phantom will always be a good choice. But the thing that differs the most between the Phantom and the Vandal, which hopefully will be the weapons you'll be using the most, is our spray patterns. So let's go ahead and hold down. You see these first couple bullets. We got like the 3 or 4 bullets at the start. Now, that is kind of what makes or breaks a fight, unless you're missing some, right? So, if we're going up, let's get real close. If we're going up, let's just do a burst of, I don't know, 6 bullets. 2, 4, 6. So we did 7 there, right? You see how the first 2 are like right on top of each other, and the other 2, the third and the fourth one, are very close in proximity? That is what makes the Phantom, right? The first couple bullets, the first 4 or so bullets may be enough to kill someone. For instance, how much damage does this do? 39 to the body. So let's hit these first couple bullets, right? Those first couple bullets are going to kill. Again, we're pretty close, but the biggest difference between the Phantom and the Vandal is the first couple bullets, in my opinion. Again, so the Phantom has an easier spray pattern to control. Those first couple bullets are easier to control compared to the Vandal. The Vandal is going to end up doing more damage because it is a heavier weapon, but the kick is harder to control. Hopefully I explained that to the best of my abilities. Going into our next one, we have that Vandal. I have a wonderful skin on it, the Blub skin, if you know. But if you're in stream, you may have seen this because there was a big controversy. But our Vandal will one tap to the head at all distances. 160 to the head. Very, very powerful. Again, it's pretty much the alternative to the Phantom. If you're not really in that medium range, and you're wanting something that I don't know, you have a lot of faith in your aim, and you want something that's just hitting hard, we have the Vandal for you, right? Let's look at the recoil pattern. See how each of the bullets are kind of all spaced out differently? It's not like the Phantom in the sense where the first couple bullets will hit. Well, it is, but it's different. So here, let's shoot our first 6. So now we have the 3, and then it goes up and up, right? So we have 3 kind of in the same area. Shoot it again. So we have, for instance, on the Vandal, we have the 3 bullets that are kind of all close to each other. And for the Phantom, we have the 4 to 5 bullets that are all close to each other. But again, let's go where the Vandal succeeds at like a long distance, right? So that was 2 bullets. See how far they are? That was 3 bullets. See the 3 bullets? Even at a long distance, those first couple bullets are going to be super crucial. So, in my recommendation and what I do is that if you have faith in your aim, or you want that confidence, or you need the confidence to get those quick kills, those headshots, I would use the Vandal. Its recoil is harder to control, but those first couple bullets are what matters. These first couple bullets in long range may not do a ton of damage, which is typically why you burst fire with the Vandal, because those first couple bullets are really what matters. When you get the Phantom you can spray more with the Phantom because the recoil pattern is easier to control, and then with the Vandal, it's more of a burst fire weapon or a tap fire weapon, because only the first, just because you see the bullets are going all over the place here. Spraying with any weapon is never good. If you can control the spray, I mean, it will end up being good, but that's a talk for another video. Hopefully that was easy to understand. I tried to make it easy to digest. See? Bullets are all over the place besides those first couple. Going into our next one, we have Z-Marshal. Z-Marshal. If you ever played CSGO, this is identical to the Scout, but if you're watching a video like this, I doubt that you've ever played CSGO. But essentially, this is your basic sniper rifle. The run-of-the-mill sniper does a lot of damage, does a 101 to the body, but 202 to the head. So not only is it cheap, but it one-shots to the head at any distance. The only drawback with the Marshall, and it is not one-shot to the body, which means you have to hit your headshots. And headshots are hard to hit. The largest difference between our Marshall here and our Operator is that the Operator will one-shot to the body, unlike the Marshall will. Our sniper rifles are pretty basic. Again, Marshall can one-hit kill when they don't have armor, but whenever they have armor, it will always be a two-shot to the body, or even more if you end up hitting their foot or something. But it's a one-shot headshot always. Operator, body shots, even... Oh, did I just miss? Even our shin shots will end up one-hitting with the Operator just because it packs that much of a punch. The Operator also has a dual setting where not only can it zoom in once, but also twice. Getting into our last couple weapons, we have our Ares, Hunter's favorite weapon if you've ever watched stream. This is Hunter's favorite weapon, but this is our first light machine gun. Now, on the Ares, the fire rate, ridiculous. Recoil is quite easy to control, though. So, if you're looking for a cheap weapon that not only does a lot of damage, packs a punch, and has a super high fire rate, the Ares is your weapon. But again, we do kind of want to drift towards the Phantom and the Vandal in the later rounds because those are the most dominant weapons in Valorant. But with the Ares, you'll see, look at this. Recoil is kind of all over the place, right? But very easy to control if you just give it some time. Right? Not the best control, but I'm keeping it in the same area, you know what I'm saying? It's not going up and down, it's just going that left and right, which is much easier to control. And with these bursts, it's a lot easier. The Ares is more of a mid-range only gun, in my opinion. Again, every weapon that I've gone over will work in other ranges. I'm just trying to give you the most ideal range to use it at. The Ares being probably that medium range, because at longer distances, it's not going to do nearly as much, and will be harder to control at longer ranges. See how my bullets are kind of going everywhere now. Our last weapon, last but not least, I would say, is our Odin with 100 spanking bullets. This weapon not only packs a punch, but will also annoy your enemies. Not the strongest weapon in the world, but if you're looking to just spray and pray, the Odin is your weapon. Also has an ADS. I think I forgot to mention on the Ares, but the Ares also has an ADS. Going back to our Odin, it is just the craziest weapon you've ever seen with a 12 fire rate. I'll just let the bullet speak for itself. Again, kind of crazy in terms of fire rate and damage wise. It's actually pretty insane as well. The headshot being 95 up close with that 0 to 30. But our rate of fire increases over time, which is why the Odin is so incredible. We end up shooting faster and faster and faster the more we shoot it, until it eventually hits its peak. That being said, it can cause a lot of damage over a brief period of time. That being said, if you're shooting through a wall with the Odin, a wall that is wall bangable, this weapon, I've definitely gotten killed with that a couple times in my games, but also does, again, if there's a lot of enemies in one area or one general area, you may be able to just obliterate them all. The recoil is similar to the Ares, in which you're kind of just pulling down with your mouse, maybe a little bit left and right, to fix that recoil. These are not really weapons you're trying to learn the recoil patterns on, you're more than welcome to. These are not really weapons you're trying to get super good aim with. It's more of the Phantom, Vandal, Sheriff, Ghost, Guardian, Op, etc. Because most of these other weapons are either very situational or are only good in short ranges. Like, for instance, in my matches, I only use the Sheriff, Ghost, Phantom, Vandal, Spectre, and that's it. And occasionally a shotgun and or a sniper rifle. But I've never really used the light machine guns. But they do have their place. It's just very situational, as I said. Only drawback for the Odin really is that it has a long reload time. But as you can imagine, it is a light machine gun, so it is going to have qualities of a light machine gun. That being said, I wouldn't make this video too terribly complicated. I try to give a brief explanation of how every single weapon worked, not something that would confuse you newer players, because again, like when I first came in, I was confused. So hopefully this was pretty cut and dry. I didn't really want to make it anything too crazy, but I do hope you guys enjoy. Go get some wins out there. If you guys want any more help or any more videos of this kind, please let me know by giving this video a like. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for me. And I'll catch you guys next time in our next video, our next Valorant video, where we do a game control video again of tips that helped me get out of bronze, right? You guys know the rules. Stay awesome and join the fight. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.